My client Tony lost 20 kilos in a 16-week time frame. So we pulled off 20 kilos of body fat and also built some tissue along the way. If you have any aspirations of looking fucking incredible, this video will help you out. We're going to go through the initial setup, the nitty-gritty, the calories we used, the output we used, when we did high carb days, and then we'll go into the more important stuff. You see, the nitty-gritty is good, but it's not about the nitty-gritty. It's about the fucking mindset. It's about the man you need to become to get a result that looks like this. We'll then go on to how he finished up at the end, and then you'll get to hear from Tony and his words going through the result and the transformation. So we'll roll straight in. His start point. We needed to assess where his current body composition. Now, I already knew this guy was a bit of an athlete. He's a top-level Krav Maga instructor. But it was a case of pulling that back out of him and showcasing it across his physique. So initially, he started at 107, 27% of body fat. So a lot of work was needed to be done here to get him looking fucking exceptional. So we put the plans in place, we had some difficult conversations, and then we moved to execute. The setup looked like this. So our initial start point relative to his current body composition was 2,427 calories. Now you may think that's actually quite low, but it's not. You see, where someone is higher body fat, you can get away with actually being on lower calories because they are containing more stores. I'll be dropping a result later on this week that we'll talk through where the client was actually a lot leaner, a lot, maybe even a little bit more muscle, and he needs a lot more food and can still get very lean. So don't always think the bigger they are, the more food they need. It's relative to their body composition. And it's important you can assess your own body composition and see where are you sitting, how much body fat have you got, what is your current scale weight. Now from there, we saw what result we could get relative to the food that we were on, and it was very clear that quickly we needed to come down a little bit to see some change. In fact, we only moved his calories down 2 weeks on the bounce, and then after that we sat on this number here for the remainder of the transformation. And that's quite important because you ideally want to keep food as high as you possibly can. Why? Because food will drive performance in the gym. Driving performance in the gym will retain and also build muscle. It's not about becoming a smaller version of you. That is what people worry about when they cut down. They think they will be skinny and flat. That's not the case. Well, isn't when you get coached by me, because my job is to build tissue and at least hold on to all the tissue you already have. And my job is to pull body fat off the frame. So if I can keep your food as high as possible, you will train harder. Training stimulus is the most important thing for retaining muscle. Then it's your protein target, which is relative to your lean mass anyway, which is something we worked out. So the next lever you want to pull is output. Now you could increase the step count, but then most people don't have the time to do that. He had 10,000 steps every day, and we just maintained it at that. We then decided to pull from cardio, so increase cardio. So we had 20 minutes times 7. We ran that for 2 full weeks, and then we increased to 30. And for the longest period of time, we sat on 30 minutes. And 30 minutes of cardio and 2,166 calories a day was the perfect sweet spot for him to be dropping 1% of the scale weight per week, which for him is around about a kilogram drop is what we can expect. And that's the sweet spot where you know you're losing enough, but you're not losing that much where you could be running the risk of losing tissue. And then as we got into the last 2 weeks where we needed to dig just to get the last bit off, we pushed to 40 minutes times 7. Now, interestingly enough, we actually applied some high carb days. The usage of high carb days, I think, is used wrongly in the term refeed days. People see refeed as like a cheat meal. You don't need a fucking cheat meal. Do you want to get a good result or not? Because you will not get one if you need a fucking cheat meal. Let me tell you that right now. You need high carb days when you are 12. When you've been dieting for 12 weeks, you're probably ready for a high carb day. Probably looking a bit flat. Performances start to drop off. Performance starts to drop off. Could run the risk of losing tissue. So we inject you with a high amount of carbohydrates. We pull from protein slightly, increase from carbohydrates. The overall calorie target maybe a little bit more, but not drastically much. And that way it will fill up the muscle with glycogen. You will be able to train harder, feel fuller, and it will essentially carry you through for about a 10-day period, which is what we had here. And this was a good chance for us to understand the data, how his body responded, how receptive was he to insulin. And then we ran the same again at week 15, a little bit more this time. The look was fuller. And this gave us a good indicator of how we were going to run the final photos going into week 16. So this gave us some good data. So, and again, use high carb days, but you need to be lean enough and to have dieted for at least a 10-week period before you do so. Depends on where you actually are in your like how much body fat you started with and how lean you are relative to how well you'll use it. And then you can put the high carb days to good use to retain the tissue. Don't just think you don't need a refeed day. You're going to do this for 16 weeks max, and you can get a sick result. You can diet for 16 weeks without needing a fucking Mackies. Come on, man. So, on to that. It's about the man you need to become. The nitty gritty, this is nice, this will work, but this won't work because your brain will stop it from working. You will get to a point and you will give yourself a limiting belief as to why you can't do that. Because most people don't believe they deserve it. Their self-image is so damaged that when they start to get to the point, it's almost like they're a footballer, a centre-back on a run, and he's about in their other half and is about to shoot in their box. He starts to get a nosebleed because he doesn't believe he should be there. Or like when a keeper goes on a fucking keeper run. It never really happens properly, but remember when you used to play FIFA and the keeper going to keep a run? It's not right because he doesn't believe he should be there. He believes he should be in the goal, stopping shots. And it's the same will happen for you. If you do not fix what is upstairs in here, you will not get the result. I can tell you that for free. Your brain will stop it somewhere along the lines. Some traits that Tony had that I just had to pull out of him were his resilience. His ability for me to say, we're going to dig a bit deeper now. We're going to push this a little bit further. We're going to take you a little bit lower on the scale weight. His resilience to that, after the difficult conversation, was second to none. He took it within his stride with open arms and executed on that. The next trait he had was obviously discipline. He did not miss a fucking beat when it came to food. He prided himself in making sure he hit his targets for output, calories in, steps out, and then training really, really well. Because he believed he deserved the physique. And he had me in his ear telling him how much he fucking deserved to have it. And you need to find that either, if you can't convince yourself you need it, you need to outsource to someone else. Go and find a coach that can do that for you, that you trust, that will take you there. If that's me, then that's me. Go and book a call and we can fucking get started, no problem. But you need to make sure that somebody's going to transform this. If you don't transform this, you will never get to the goal. You need to move up what is known as your hot coal rock line. If I put you on hot coal rocks, you will jump off as fast as possible. And that is the equivalent of like, what is your standard? If your standard is low for your physique, then just getting to like 15% body fat will be okay for you, and you'll stop there because this is your line. This is who you are. This is 2 out of 10, 3 out of 10 fucking women that all you care about thinking. But me, my standard of line is like 8%. If I'm not 8 to 10% of body fat, I'll get fucking very, very anxious. I will move heaven and earth to make sure I do, because my line, my standard for myself and my physique is here. I'm no different to you. I just decide that this is what it is. And then my actions act accordingly. My visualizations, my beliefs follow this as well. And this is what we really get into the mind of the clients so they can get exceptional results. Because without this, the whole thing will fall on deaf ears. They will fuck it up. They will either fuck it up or they will just stop doing it because it's hard. And when it is hard to get to this level of physique, you need more. You need that incessant drive, that desire for more. You need to be unsatisfied with your gopping body right now and want fucking more. Because if you don't, you will sack it and you will have an average 15% body fat physique for the rest of your life. And that is just fucking awful. So it's about the man you need to become. The end result. We got him down to 86.5 and 10% body fat. He looks like a superhuman. He would snap your neck with his bare hands. He's a Krav Maga instructor as well, but look at the size of him now. Just pure, dense ball of meat. He's 86.5 kilograms and 10% body fat. That is an absolute specimen of a human being. And the mindset to follow it through. You are capable of achieving something like this. You really are, but you need a plan to execute on, and you need to have the mindset that is going to take you there. And with that, you can achieve something very, very incredible. But without it, you will never get there. Now, I want you to listen to what Tony had to say and how he found the coaching experience.
So Tom's been my fitness coach, my physique body coach, if you like, for you youngsters out there, for the last 16 weeks. I met Tom, like I say, 16 weeks ago at a point in my life where I was looking for some changes. I knew I wanted to be better. I wanted to drop some body fat. And I'm a personal trainer myself, and martial arts scholar myself. But one thing I soon realised is I needed to get out of my own way, get out of my own way and put myself in someone else's hands and be accountable to them. And that's what I've done. I met up with Tom 16 weeks ago. I've lost 20 kilos in fat, and hopefully you'll see from my images, I'm wearing 32-inch waist trousers, something I haven't done since I was in my 20s. Why? Because Tom generally cares about the sessions that you're doing, about the food that you're eating and the training that you're following, all right? And when I say that, I mean, quite often you'll feel that you're the only person he's working with, all right? Because he'll give you unlimited amount of time, he'll talk to you, he'll message you, he'll give you loads of feedback. When things aren't perhaps going to plan, you want some advice, or even before things aren't going to plan, he knows what's coming around the corner, all right? So if you're looking to get into online coaching with somebody, I can't recommend Tom enough. He genuinely cares. If money's an issue, you just have to ask yourself, all right, what would you prepare to pay to look and have the physique you had when you were in the 20s? And that's all I'll say to you. So it's worth every single penny. Tom generally cares. He's a total professional in everything that he does. So I'm hugely grateful for him. All right, I'm looking better than I ever have done. This is obviously just phase one. We're going to move on to phase two next, where I'm going to start packing some muscle on. So yeah, big shout out to Tom. Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
So pretty warming stuff. It's always good to hear from their perspective and what they have to say. Obviously, I will push them to the point, but as you heard there from his points, that's how he feels and how he receives the information moving forward. So I hope this video was useful. I hope it at least opened your eyes to what is possible and what is capable for you of achieving with a good plan and with a good coach behind you. So if you want to get started and want to achieve great fucking results, then there'll be a link in the description for you to book a call and we can get started. I'll change your fucking life, no problem. At the very least, at least subscribe to the channel. There'll be more videos dropped like this, more knowledge, more little gems to do with physique transformation, mindset development, and all the good stuff that comes with that. So thank you for watching, boys, and I'll see you tomorrow.